All right, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 1997 Land Rover Defender. Up front is a 4.0 liter V8 and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, this is super exciting. These cars are really rare. They even have individual serial numbers on the tailgate, which is just so cool, and this is the perfect color. This car only has 23,000 miles on it. So I think personally it might be one of the lowest mileage Defenders in the country for sure. And these are super rare because they really only made about 3,000 of these for North America for these set years, which is 94 to 97, excluding 96. So let's get back to that 4.0 liter V8. I'll put the horsepower up on the screen. It's not fast. This is not a fast vehicle. It's shaped like a brick. If it was supposed to be fast, it would be not shaped like a brick. So don't expect any speed out of it. However, it does make a good amount of torque, and that's what you really want out of an off-road vehicle. If you're stuck in a rut or stuck in the mud, torque is what's going to get you out. You could have 105 horsepower, but as long as you have the torque, you're getting home that night. And I absolutely love that. That's exactly how this Defender is. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic transmission, and that's only for 1997. So that's making this even more rare, as this is the 4-speed auto. The previous years were a 5 or 6-speed manual. So this is really one of the only automatic Defenders there were. Normally, of course, I would prefer a manual, but in this case, the automatic's even more rare. And last but not least, of course, the Defender is 4-wheel drive, and that's selectable down on the center console. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of different gauges. On the far left is my tachometer, which is comically small. I don't know if I've ever seen a tachometer this small in a car. Then I have my coolant gauge and my fuel gauge, which are all equal size to the tachometer itself. Then I have my speedometer, which is nice and big, all the way off to the right. Of course, I have a bunch of warning lights. This is where the car really starts to feel very 80s to me. The warning lights are very visible during the day. In the 2000s, they started to hide the warning lights. You can't see them unless they're illuminated. I'm not really sure why. It doesn't really matter, but the Defender's like, hey, you're gonna have issues, and these are the issues that you're gonna have. I absolutely love that. On the steering wheel, I don't actually have any buttons. It's a very clean and simple steering wheel. There is no airbag, and that's actually why they stopped importing the Defender here in the States in 97, is because it didn't have an airbag, and the government said, hey, you can put an airbag in it, and Land Rover just said, no, that's okay. We just won't sell them there anymore. So that's that. To the left of me, I do have my gauge dimmer switches, my headlight switches, and my defroster switches, which is interesting. Normally it's not on the left. Also, what's normally on the left, except for in Porsches, apparently Land Rover does it as well, is the key barrel is actually on the left-hand side. Now in a Porsche, that's because the theory is during the Le Mans races, you could fasten your seatbelt and turn the car on at the same time. I don't think Land Rover was racing in Le Mans, but they still put it over there for some reason. Maybe it's a British thing, I don't know. Then we get to the window. The window is very interesting because it's actually a slide window, and this might totally destroy my lapel mic, but I will open the window now. You can just slide it. That's it. It's like a drive-through window, but you can also open the front. That's so funny to me. There's no roller, there's no button. It's just, if you want your window open, you gotta just slide it. I think that's hilarious. In the center, I do have an ashtray up on the dash. This is actually sort of a very 70s feature, so carried on to the 90s with Land Rover. And then I don't really have much below that besides a clock and a cigarette lighter, which of course, very 90s, very basic, but I love having analog clocks in cars. Normally more expensive cars have this, but you find it here in the Defender. Not saying that it isn't expensive, because we'll talk about that later on. I do have dealer installed air conditioning as well, so not every Defender will have this, but I do have very primitive air conditioning. In the middle of the dash, I do have little levers that say vent. Now, when I pull those, there's actually vents on the outside of the Defender that open up, and it just draws air in. That's it. It just opens a hole in the front of the car to let air in. I think that's hilarious and so primitive, but it works. It all works. Down on the center console, we do have our 4-wheel drive selector. It is manual. It looks like a stick shift out of like a Toyota Tercel. It looks great. It works well. And of course, if you're owning a Defender, you're going to be using that. Then we have the automatic shifter. Now, it looks a little out of place. It looks kind of like it was just bolted in there because, I mean, honestly, it probably was. But it functions well, and it has a really satisfying clunk into gear. You know, some 90s cars, even when they're automatic, you can't tell what gear they're in. You kind of have to rely on your dashboard or just hopes and dreams. But this, you actually feel it clunk into gear, and I really, really like that. Then on the bottom of the center console, that's where we actually find our radio. This is where the radio, AM, FM, all that stuff is actually found at the very bottom of the center console. I don't think I've ever seen this in a vehicle. I'm not sure why they did this, whether this was an option and they would just block it off with a plate if you didn't get it. I don't know what the reasoning for this is, but that's where you find your radio. Now, the seats are nice and comfortable. They are a little bit hard by modern standards, but who cares? You're in a Defender. You don't buy this car to be comfortable and show up at the country club. This is a tool, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And we will talk about the back seats as well. All right, so now we're in the back of the 1997 Land Rover Defender, and it's actually kind of nice back here. If there's a second person back here, it wouldn't be as nice, but actually the seat is decently comfortable. It's going to be a rough ride back here if you actually ride back here, but it's kind of sizable. As you saw, I did have to kind of climb into it, physically climb into it. But I mean, you get this great open air experience. We still have the top on, but the convertible top, it's actually above the front driver and passenger too. All of this comes off, so you just have these two roll bars and this behind you. It's a really, really open air experience, and I absolutely love that. That's what's missing from modern off-road vehicles. Because of safety laws, you can't really take your whole top off. Jeeps you can, but it's still not the same. This is a fully, truly open top experience. Plus it has these giant removable windows, so I'm just, you know, even if it was raining, I could still enjoy all of this fresh air. That is really, really nice. Now we have to talk about the looks. This is the proper color for the Defender. This Defender is so clean. Like I said, 23,000 miles. This is as close to a showroom Defender as not only I will ever drive, but you'll probably ever see on YouTube ever again. So you're welcome. But also it looks fantastic. It looks so utilitarian. This thing has a purpose. This has a use. I mean, really, I feel like if the apocalypse is coming tomorrow, which, let's be honest, in the news it might, this is the vehicle you want. This will get the job done. Actually driving the Defender, it's not the best. It's not very comfortable, but that's not why you buy a Defender. I have to get that out there. Of course, that's not why you buy a Defender. I'm just saying, you feel like you're sitting on the car. You're very high up. The ride is pretty rough, but that's because it has so much pedigree off-road. You don't want soft suspension in your trail rig when you're, you know, halfway up a dune. You want the best stuff, and this is really, truly the best stuff. This is one of the most capable vehicles I've ever driven, ever. And honestly, probably ever made. And sadly, this is sort of the end of an era for me. This is when SUVs like this were actually rugged and unapologetic. Now everything has Alcantara, and it has soft suspension and Apple CarPlay, and that stuff's great, but this is straight to the business. This is no fluff. This wastes no time, and I absolutely love it. And that's why these cars are so valuable. First of all, they're really, really rare. Like I said, only about 3,000 imported to the US, and those are specific to the US. They call them NAS, North American Spec. They're very, very rare. And they only sold them for a short amount of time, made them even more rare. They were some of the last vehicles in America without airbags, makes them more rare. Plus, the convertible makes it more rare. This color makes it more rare. I mean, on and on and on. I mean, this is just such a rare, valuable vehicle. And so, because you might be watching this video a year after I filmed it, 2 years after I filmed it, just go do a Google search on how much these are worth. Your jaw might hit the floor. They're worth a lot of money. And I get why. These are just spectacular, utilitarian, so useful, but so joyful vehicles. I mean, really, truly, this is just, it's a blast to drive, it's a blast to see, and it's a blast to own. And that's just, it's just a little smile machine. It's so cool. Maybe that's because it's yellow. Maybe that's why I'm saying it, but it really is genuinely a very, very good vehicle. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned something about the 1997 Land Rover Defender. But don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.